So many souls to play with, so little time. Would you agree?
What the?
Hello.
How'd you get here?
Try to keep this interesting for me.
Interesting for you? You're probably like the least interesting thing in this house right now, you hyper-realistic prick. And you can either crawl back to whatever hellish dimension it is that spawned you, or I can throw you out myself.
Try me. No, stop. What are you doing? You can't do this. I am gone.
Creepypastas. Long forgotten relics of the past. While the term creepypasta has a bit of a cringe-inducing vibe associated with it nowadays, there was a time where these things were all the hype. If you were into horror content around the late 2000s and early 2010s, there was no getting around them. Even if you weren't, you've probably at least heard of a creepypasta character before. Herobrine, Jeff the Killer, or Slender Man, just to name a few. A creepypasta is a horror-related legend that has been shared around the internet. Now, because these stories are horror-related, you'd expect them to be scary, but in a lot of cases, that couldn't be further from the truth. You see, part of the reason why creepypastas have completely faded into irrelevancy over time is because of the overabundance of badly written and sometimes downright goofy stories. But you know what's even goofier than some of these stories? 12-year-old me for getting scared by them. Now don't get me wrong, not all of them were bad. A lot of creepypastas had a lot of care and effort put into them. But for every good one, there seemed to be 100 ones that were just horribly written, filled with cliches, edgy just for the sake of being edgy, and usually had a protagonist with an IQ as high as the age of the person that wrote the story. But no matter what, there's one thing they pretty much all had in common. They were entertaining, some of them for genuinely being creepy, and some of them for being so bad you just couldn't help but laugh. So today, I thought it would be a fun idea to go over some of the creepypastas that are the most memorable to me. Some of them good, and some of them bad. So sit back and enjoy as we take a look back on the creepypastas of old. Starting off with one I actually believed as a kid, the Lavender Town Syndrome. Before I ever even heard of the term creepypasta, I, just like many other kids, used to play Pokemon on the Game Boy. The red version, of course, because Charizard is way cooler than Blastoise. Pokemon is a really kid-friendly game with a lot of upbeat music. Well, until you enter Lavender Town, that is. This theme used to creep me out as a kid, as it's such a sudden change of tone from the rest of the game. It just feels really out of place. I actively tried to avoid Lavender Town when I was playing by myself or late at night, as it was just so unnerving to me. Well, of course, the giant tower in the town that was filled with the graves of deceased Pokemon didn't really help either. Then, a few years later, in 2010, a rumor started to float around the internet. This rumor claimed that the music of Lavender Town contained hidden frequencies so high that only children and young teens could hear them because their ears are much more sensitive than those of adults. These frequencies could cause all sorts of side effects, from nosebleeds or headaches to irrational behavior and depression. Depression so severe, in fact, that in 1996, it allegedly caused over 200 children in Japan to nullify their existence. Also, if you put the theme into a special program, it would apparently show the sprite of the ghost from the game and the words "Leave now." Now obviously this was all just a bunch of bogus and has been completely debunked in every way possible. But that didn't stop 12-year-old me from telling his friends in school that they probably shouldn't listen to it with headphones on. I think the main reason I believed this one is because I was already creeped out by Lavender Town way before hearing all of this, so I just kinda took it as an explanation as to why it creeped me out so much. But looking back on it now, the reason it did is simply because of the eerie music and the fact that Lavender Town basically being a Pokemon cemetery feels completely out of place when compared to the positive feel of the rest of the game. Now moving on to an absolute classic and one of the most well-known, Herobrine. When this creepypasta released in 2010, Minecraft was still a relatively small indie game. The full game wasn't even released yet. The story went like this. A player, after creating a new world, starts seeing something move in the distance. Upon further inspection, he sees it as a model of the default player character, but with wide eyes. Every time the player saw him, he would quickly run away and seemingly disappear. As the player kept playing the game, he would notice man-made structures appearing in his world. The player made a post on the Minecraft forum to see if anyone else has seen this mysterious other player in their world. But every time he did, the post would get removed within minutes. The player eventually received an email from another forum user saying that he had a small list of other people who had also seen this man in their world. After some investigating, these people eventually came to the conclusion that the mysterious other player roaming their world was Notch's dead brother, who went by the username Herobrine. The player would then email Notch asking if he had a brother, with Notch replying, "I did, but he is no longer with us." One thing I never really thought about back in the day and really only noticed reading it back now is how did these people link together this other player and not just dead brother Herobrine? It kinda came out of nowhere, as the mysterious character was specifically stated to have no username above his head. It's never actually explained how they came to the conclusion that this character was Notch's brother, or at least not in the original creepypasta. It was just kinda dropped on you. But despite all of this, Herobrine pretty much reached urban legend status on the internet. People were posting videos and pictures claiming they too had seen him in their game. Herobrine also became kind of a running gag with the developers, as they would occasionally put removed Herobrine in the patch notes. I always found Herobrine supposedly being Notch's dead brother to be kinda dumb, but the whole concept of this mysterious character living in your world, always observing you but never really revealing himself, was always really interesting. The videos and mods people made for it were really cool as well. One I didn't necessarily believe as a kid, but did kinda creep me out, is depressedmouse.avi. And yes, I know it's not actually called that, but you know I can't say that on YouTube. This creepypasta is pretty much seen as the forefather of the entire lost episode genre. The story describes this lost tape as a continuous loop of Mickey Mouse walking past a few buildings. As the video continues, however, it got more and more twisted and demented as it went on. You could start to hear people cry and scream, the building started to crumble and catch fire, and Mickey's face got more distorted. After about 8 minutes or so, the video cuts to Mickey Mouse's face that is usually shown at the end credits of every normal episode. The last 30 seconds of the tape have only ever been seen by one person, and he immediately puts himself into a permanent state of not existing after viewing it. Yeah, the creepypasta itself isn't really anything special, but the videos that were made for it were kinda creepy. There were several, but I believe this is the most popular one. It's mostly the music that's just really unnerving. Watching it now doesn't really do anything for me, but I do remember I didn't watch it until the end the first time I saw it. Also, most of the music from this video has been used in the Mr. Incredible becomes uncanny meme from a while back, and now when I watch it, I just think of that meme, pretty much taking away any creepiness it might have had left. This next one is a personal favorite of mine, but I don't think many people know about it. It is quite short, however, so I'll read most of it for you. Mr.Mix. This creepypasta is about a typing game of all things. The game was released in the early 1990s. In it, you have to type words into a box to make the titular Mr. Mix put ingredients into a bowl. The game has a words per minute requirement in order to progress to the next level. It has an insane difficulty curve, however, with the first level having a word requirement as low as 10 and the fifth being over 500, making it pretty much impossible to progress past the fifth level. The background music in the game is really weird, with the first level having a weird pattern of growls that gets louder the longer it goes on. So loud, in fact, that it even caused damage to some speakers. The second level has no music at all, and the third level has a really low quality recording of a hairdryer. The remaining levels have a really high-pitched ringing that could even cause eardrum damage. Kids that played the game were even reported to see Mr. Mix in their nightmares. The game didn't sell well for obvious reasons and kind of faded into obscurity. Years later, PC hackers came across a ROM of the game. They managed to crack the game's code and bypass the impossible fifth level. What they found was, after doing so, the game would crash and write a bunch of files to the user's directory. These files being pictures of people with deformed and gory faces. If the user then attempted to delete any of these files, the computer would crash and cause irreparable damage to the hard drive. The hackers found that all of this was caused by a lone byte in the game that triggered after completing the fifth level. After removing this byte, they were able to access the sixth and final level. What they found, however, is unknown, as all of them refused to share what they saw. They slowly became paranoid and started to show extreme symptoms of PTSD. After a week, most of them weren't even able to form a coherent sentence, and after a month, all of them went missing. All remaining copies of the game were destroyed after this, and to this day, it is still unknown what was in that final level that caused these people so much psychological damage. 2 years after this incident, a man was arrested for trying to kidnap an 8-year-old girl. After DNA and fingerprint analysis, the man was identified to be one of the original hackers who saw the final level of the game. The man was wearing a chef's hat and had an insane look on his face. When interrogated, the man would only say one thing: "I am Mr. Mix." Shh. I don't know what it is about this creepypasta that makes it so memorable for me. It's really not that special, but I really like it nonetheless. It's short, straight to the point, and doesn't overstay its welcome. I think it does a great job at really making you wonder what was in that final level. There's also a fan-made recreation of the game that does have some gory images in the final level, should you choose to hack your way to it. I don't think they're real, but I'm not gonna risk showing it either way. I don't really have that much more to say about it though, so I'm gonna move on to the last creepypasta I'll discuss in this video. An absolute classic and one of the few creepypastas still talked about to this day. That creepypasta being Jeff the Killer. I feel like everyone who is even remotely familiar with creepypastas knows the story of Jeff the Killer. But in case you don't, let me give you a really brief summary. Jeff moves to a new town with his parents and, Lou? I don't know, his brother. In this new town, Jeff and his brother are threatened with knives by 3 bullies. Jeff beats these bullies badly, but his brother takes the blame for what happened and gets arrested for it. Later, Jeff meets these bullies again at a party and gets attacked by them. They burn Jeff with a combination of alcohol and bleach. This somehow causes Jeff's skin to bleach white and his lips to burn bright red. Oh, and his hair is also dyed bright green and, oh no, it's a different character. My bad. After being discharged from the hospital, he goes back home, cuts a permanent smile into his mouth and cheeks, and burns off his eyelids. He then proceeds to kill both of his parents and his brother, giving them the instruction to go to sleep before stabbing them. Jeff then disappears and goes on a killing spree that allegedly continues to this very day. And, well, that's basically the whole creepypasta. It makes absolutely zero sense whatsoever. I mean, I'm willing to suspend some disbelief when it comes to his skin being bleached, but him going crazy and killing his whole family without any build-up or explanation whatsoever is just kind of bad writing in my opinion. For some reason, Jeff the Killer seemed to appeal quite a lot to a younger and or weirder fan base, who kind of seemed to form some weird obsession with him. I mean, the amount of strange fan art for this character is insane. Now, to some extent, this kind of happened with most creepypasta characters, but I feel like Jeff definitely got done the dirtiest. Now, earlier on, I said Jeff the Killer is one of the few creepypastas still talked about to this day, and it is. But for obvious reasons, it isn't because of the story itself. It's because alongside the creepypasta, this image was posted. This is apparently what Jeff the Killer is supposed to look like. Now, this image was big on the internet. Even if you've never heard of Jeff the Killer, you've probably seen this image at least once before. What's interesting about it is that it's unknown where the original image came from. There's actually quite a big community dedicated right now to finding the original, unedited version of this image. YouTuber Some Ordinary Gamers, aka Mudahar, has even put down a $10,000 bounty to whoever is able to find it, and at the time of this video being made, it hasn't been claimed yet. So if you're looking for something to do, maybe give it a shot. Who knows, you might get lucky. Anyway, that's gonna be it for this video. I know there are a ton of creepypastas I haven't talked about, notably a very big one that I think I'll make a separate video on in the future. But let me know in the comments which creepypastas were the most memorable for you, and maybe I'll make a part 2 later on. Also, this is the very first video I've ever made, so if you're still here, thank you so much for watching. I'd also really love to hear some feedback. What things did you like and what can I improve on? I'd love to hear from you, and hopefully I'll see you in a future video. But for now, I'm out. Later, people.